Yeah, so I would like to share a little bit of the let's say, philosophy or the intellectual background of what we're going to do. Uh, you know, they are. It's important when we engage in some practices, any type of inner subconscious awareness practices, anything. It's good to know why I'm doing this. Why? Not just do blind practice. The more understanding we have about what we are doing and why, the more we get more benefit. So my understanding on this our pursuit, like in Constitution, basically, I agree with them. They are they said that everybody is the innate pursuit of happiness or something like that. So that's indeed everybody is seeking happiness or peace or fulfillment. And we everybody does that, even the ones that say they don't want to do that. They also, and everybody goes about it in different ways. Some people, they go to Africa to save the children. Some people want to make like a corporation, an empire, and have lots of money and power and toys. Some people are like seeking the ultimate one, the perfect mate who is going to make it all good finally, or money or fame or the Ferrari, or like the next kind of hit of heroin that will make it just good. So all of this, we are basically seeking happiness, not happiness like yeah, not that. That's kind of that's okay, but that's not. It's some state of deep okayness, deep okayness, and a sense of nothing is missing. And then there's a sense of inner peace, inner harmony, free from unnecessary suffering, a sense of completeness. So everybody's doing that, even if no matter what we're doing. Some people go to meditation for that. Some people go to whatever in politics to become president. So, but now these teachings, they say that actually almost all humanity, with few exceptions, we are pursuing happiness, going for it in pursuing objects, stuff. Also, they can be subtle objects. We can pursue some high state through some drug, or a state of being in love, um, or a yacht, or fame, or recognition, or all that, or a mate. So all the time, our something deep inside, it keeps going for that, And these teachings, they say that actually that is the opposite direction to go. And actually, this real inner peace, real what we are seeking, is already at the very core of our being. Even if we feel like we are totally in suffering, these teachings say that our truest nature, our real identity, our real self is already whole and complete, and there's already a deep sense of peace. Actually, that maybe we connect when we sleep, some of us only, or so that's good to be said from the beginning. Also, in terms of many of us, we carry this sense that there's something wrong with me. There's some broken somehow. People are okay, but me, I'm kind of somehow some problem. I'm some deficiency. There's something. I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I'm broken. I'm missing something. So, yeah. So the good news that I want to start any healing, psychological, evolutionary work is with this theory, is that what we are doesn't need therapy. Actually, our real identity is aware divine being. This divine may trigger people because religion is a little kind of twisted. So actually, some religions, they may take us further from God. But yeah, what we really are in our deepest identity is already whole and complete, doesn't need therapy, and it is aware being that is also highly intelligent, highly creative. Its nature is to be loving, and it is full of love. Love is not something that is gotten. I've got it, you know. It is what we are, and also in our truest nature, that is also is indestructible, our real identity, so cannot be affected by something happening to the body and whatever traumas we had in childhood. So no matter how much we think that, oh man, yeah, but Buddha or Jesus or somebody, but I'm fucked up, you know. So it's good to remember this as a premise, or at least the premise of this approach that I have, which is not mine. So our true identity is doing great. That's the good news. The bad news is that on due to being raised in less than ideal environments where the parents were ranging from busy or stressed or addicted or had lots of traumas or they were like from really good parent to really hurtful, harmful, evil kind of stuff. Due to our childhood experiences, being raised in family environment which was unconscious, even if our parents did the best they could with what they had. And also due to the society being pretty dysfunctional, and so we start a lot of programs pour in, a lot of indoctrination, a lot of stuff that we are taught, but also we are soaking in our mother and father or whoever the primary caretakers were there. We are soaking it in unknowingly. And also there is, even scientifically, there's a transmission through like sperm cells of trauma information from our ancestors, and we get some DNA transmission of some of the worst traits of our family and some of the best traits that we are gotten. Let's say their problems, we inherited them, and also their strengths. You know, now the more unloving the environment where we grew up was, the more unstable, the more chaotic, violent, even if it's either critical, strict, or straight up kind of berating, torture, abuse, you know, the more negative it was, then the more it is really impacts the little boy and girl in us. And the child consciousness is very open, no defenses, and takes everything in. And also there is some natural aspect of child consciousness that they think it's all about them. I mean, there's some natural narcissism, which is not a problem. That's normal for a child to feel that this is about me and everything's about me. But the side effect of that is that if the father is drunk, or the father is incapable to be loving, and or has been to war and now is PTSD, and you know, and then he leaves, or the mother does some crazy things, the child is not able to see that, oh man, my father has some serious problems and needs some help. No, the child takes it like, oh man, there must be something wrong with me. I must have done something. It's my fault that daddy left, or it's my fault that he's shouting at me. So we start to develop these inner negative messages that are, the child doesn't think about that, but they get stored in the subconscious somehow, something along the lines of this, in psychology call them core negative beliefs. I like this term, deficiency stories, you know, deficiency identity. It's not just a story, it's a feeling of me being something wrong with me, you know. And so they are this stuff, they start to form up early on. Actually, the more one is lucky to have had a loving, supportive, nurturing kind of attention and present attention in childhood, actually, we have less of this stuff. But still, there's a lot of societal and still there's stuff there. So now what happens that we get, I'm now talking about some kind of the wounding process and what happened to us, basically. Also, these are, it's not just one time, they are layered, day in and day out in the family of origin. Also how they were treating each other, how there was the emotional atmosphere, all of that. The child is very open, sensitive, and very impactful, you know, and can be really, yeah, it's surprising how kids survive from one angle. Now, the child consciousness has also, we have this amazing ability to survive and to adapt in hell, basically. So what happens is that the child is like, okay, so mom is like that, dad is like that. Without thinking intellectually, but is adapting to the environment. So it starts to become different than its natural inclination. It starts to develop they are called strategic adaptations, where, okay, I'm going to be more like this, or I'm going to be less like that, in order to maybe get some love, or maybe avoid the wrath of their parents, or one or the other. So, and these are a variety of adaptations. So we have the wound, the ouch, we have the negative message starting to be installed. There's something wrong with me in some way, or I'm not safe, I'm not welcome, it's not okay, it's, you know. Then there's the adaptation. This comes later, another layer of programs which were necessary and helpful at that time. I'll give you an example. The child, or we become now, one can become like a straight A student and to be perfect, try to be perfect, and then to do everything right, and then to start to, and perhaps maybe then I will be loved if I do everything right, you know. This later becomes the called producing pattern, and then becomes workaholic. You can't fucking stop. And then there's always this, we don't know why, but because it runs the program that, well, if I do all this and achieve, then maybe, you know, I will be loved or something. There are other ones like, okay, well, it's not safe to be myself. It's not safe to share my feelings. It's not safe to be real because they're going to beat me, or they are going to punish me, so some people go in hiding, you know, become a hider, or you know, withdrawn, and then hyper vigilant, you know, come home and you're like, okay, what's up here, you know, checking the state of the mother and the father, and try to, you know, something to avoid some problems. Other adaptation, somebody can become really funny and very smart. So because they realized, oh, the little girl, when he's smart and cute and is like sweet, then the drunk parents, or they're like, oh, she's so sweet, and then it's like bring some peace. So then the child abandons all her feelings and is acting out this thing because that's the only time when they are not fucking upset, you know. So this is the mascot becoming like this, and other people. Well, it can get, well, you know, what's the point? It's hopeless and, you know, getting kind of collapsed. So all of this, there are more information that gets put on top of our true nature, ourself, and also they served us though. These things served us very well, and then we become a teenager, and then we are seemingly okay. But so all of this, the wounds, the negative messages, the adaptations, out of that there are some patterns of behavior that they are deeply subconscious and automatical, based on the beliefs, like, you know, I can give you example from my stuff. You know, it's not safe to be real. It's not safe to be authentic. It's not safe to be vulnerable. I got to hide. You know, I wasn't thinking about this as a child, but it took me a long time to see that's the was there playing out. Other people develop this thing like to be super attractive, to be super. So I'm really super seductive and attractive and want to get attention and stuff like that. So all of this, they form what they call later the ego. The ego is not what we really are. It's some kind of construct of myself. In some pathway, it's called the imaginary picture of myself. It's the movie of myself, but it's not really myself. It's a construct, and also the more. And so this, we are now living from some false sense of me, from some persona, from false personality. And often our natural inclination, our natural things, they are pushed aside. And so this works for some time, but at some point, it's all those adaptive patterns that we develop, they start to be maladaptive stuff and start to be problematic. And, you know, usually by the time we are 30 or 40 or something, we accumulated a lot of what is called pain body. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, but the pain body, it's like an accumulation of psychological, emotional, energetic pain that we carry. This is a mixture of negative thoughts and feelings, so it's a belief systems and feeling systems, and it's also contractions, all kind of stuff. And usually all this stuff is kind of repressed, is put the child, especially if there's only negative, bad stuff, trauma, shocking, painful, the child consciousness adapts by disconnecting somehow, or the child cannot handle them, but puts them for later, save them for later in the vault or in the iceberg, you know, underneath the water. And this worked for some time, but at some point that gets filled up, you know, and we start to have problems, you know. In the East, they call it suffering. In the West, we call it anxiety, depression, and addiction, and other stuff like that. So that's the bad news, you know. So, and then this becomes like a tight shoe. We are living from a like tight shoe, and also in mild cases, this plays out as some kind of malaise or some mysterious anxiety or things like this. In more severe cases, is like this, like a voice in my head that talks shit about me and is like nasty and berating me, and plays out as self-sabotage. It plays out in choosing some partners that seemingly they are very yummy at the beginning, but then very soon I'm re-experiencing how I felt in childhood, you know. So we're attracting some as long as these deficiency identities are in the background, I'm unlovable, there's something wrong with me, I'm a piece of shit, I'm broken or something, we are going to mysteriously attract people, partners that will confirm that. So they are going to treat us in some mysterious way, in a way that that story is reinforced, you know. Also, if we have these deficiency identities, it's hard to be really successful, because even if you are good at it and it's going well and it's, oh, it's going to happen, but then something, some self-sabotage, something procrastination, something happened, because even if you do law of attraction and you are kind of visualizing and you're in the vortex and you're seeing this ideal yacht or this ideal company, and you practice gratitude a lot, it's good to practice gratitude, but if that is plastered on top of unresolved traumas and subconscious kind of stuff, that is going to always put a cap on our happiness or success, you know. So this is the situation. So then what to do? In this approach, circle of being shadow work, what I found out is that there needs to be a two-pronged approach. It's like two type of work that seemingly are different. However, they need each other. So this, the first type of work is what I call more like being work or consciousness work. So this is anything to do with practicing meditation, witnessing, vipassana, Zen, is Eckhart Tolle, being in the here and now. Something that strengthens this ability to be present as opposed to being checked out in daydreaming all day long or hooked into some inner turmoil all day long. By the way, this is the natural state of humanity with the pain body and more unconscious, is that all day we are kind of not really there. There's all these like past and future worries and future problems and past problems and concerns and desires. And so the mind basically is very full of all the time for everybody, basically. Now, the more trauma we had, the more shit we had in childhood, the more we have this stuff. So for most people, we are kind of lost in thought or in some washing machine of feelings, you know. So this work with being is to develop this ability to witness and to rest in the here and now and just be aware of what's happening without trying to change it. You know, they call it mindfulness. Even psychology, regular psychology, discovered that mindfulness was like thousands of years before psychology. Is very good for psychology, so that's great. So this developing the ability, some part of us to observe our inner world. So there's some kind of witnessing presence. So this does something that jumpstarts this type of work. This jumpstarts our real self somehow. So because we need that, because that's the real power we have, you know. So it's necessary to activate that and to practice that. At the beginning, it requires practice. It's like an atrophied muscle. And I'm aware that, I don't know, you guys are from different walks of life. Maybe some of you, this is totally brand new. Other people, you've done lots of stuff for many years, so I'm aware of that. So, but at the beginning, it needs some practice. Later, if one persists and is deeply interested, then it's a love of it. I mean, you want it, and then happens more effortlessly. Anyway, so this is more like turning on some bulb in the house. Yeah. So this is the being work, consciousness work. Now, this by itself is not enough, because now even if you have more awareness and ability to witness, there's a lot of stuff we have that are in the vault. It's not even coming up, but it drives behavior, drives addiction. By the way, coming to addiction. Addiction in this approach is that it's not a moral issue or like you're bad or something. It's just an issue. Addiction is anything compulsive that I'm engaging in, an activity or a substance. I engage it in order to not feel bad anymore, not to feel this anxiety anymore, not to feel unworthy, not to feel a sense of lack, not to feel stressed anymore. So I'm going to the fridge, to the chocolate, to Netflix, to porn, to the spliff, to the bong, to the meth, to the anything, Tinder, and the next love of my life. So whatever that is, it can be legal addiction or illegal, but it's irrelevant. all of these are some attempt for our ego to kind of escape for a moment, not to feel like that anymore. You know, even going out all the time, being with friends. You know, it's just I can't be by myself. I can't stay. You know, because if I stay alone and I don't hear, there's no phone. Oh, this. By the way, this phone is straight up like, you know, it's an addiction thing. You know what I mean? Also, it was made. You probably guys saw that documentary, the Social Dilemma or something. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you see it because it's intentionally made to hook us. You know. Okay, so these addictions are some innocent way to have a little break from this pain body, and it usually works. You have some temporary alleviation of it. However, the issues remain untouched, and now you have a little bit more issue because you have some shame, depends on your addiction. If you know, man, what the fuck am I doing? You know, it reinforces it, and then it gets tighter and tighter. So in this approach, I don't tackle like, hey man, you need to stop. How many days you have sober, man? No, you got to stop. No, this is not helpful. This only creates more resistance. The idea is to explore the drivers. What drives, what is it that is there that I need to alleviate? And we start, which is the pain body and the traumas unresolved and the negative beliefs and deficiency stories. So if we tackle those in a skillful way and all that pain diminishes, the addiction will naturally be less, there will be less interest in them. You know what I mean? So working just with the behavior and not with what drives it, it's not very skillful. Okay, so coming back to, so just having the being witnessing is not enough because there's stuff that we are not even aware that are creating problems. So here comes this, the shadow work. Shadow work, which is a fancy term for deprogramming, basically. We are deprogramming our true nature from stuff and cleaning up, deprogramming, cleaning up. And become, basically, we need to become aware of what's in the vault, what's in the subconscious. And we become aware of it, it comes up little by little, and then it's a little painful, but also there's some relief, and then it feels better. So that's necessary too. I know many people, and I was like that too. I didn't know about the shadow deprogramming work, and I was focusing on just, higher, transcendence and stuff. And at some point, it's a problem. Doesn't go anywhere. And I think it's a lot of that here in Nevada County. Now at the same time, one cannot do this deprogramming, and one cannot be aware of the subconscious if we are asleep. That's why we need the light. So we need more presence, more awareness, more ability to witness uncomfortable stuff without getting hooked, in order to now go with this new bulb and start to bring things out, skeletons. And then basically our real nature is like an agent that dissolves this pain body if we learn how to witness skillfully. So the skeletons are mostly like a vampire in some way, that they can't bear the light. So the more you expose them to the light, they will kind of like fade away. So this approach, group approach, or even when I work one-on-one or something, that's what I'm ensuring, to tackle both of these things. If we go, some deep skeleton comes there, but you are not able to do it, that can be even traumatizing. And so that's not helpful. So you need to match your strengthening your light and then going into the darkness, basically. I guess that's the philosophy. And yeah, so this is a group for people who are, who are suffering in some way, or who are interested in there must be something more to what we see than what comes to the eye. Or a mixture of those, some suffering, either big or large, and some interest in the nature of what's really going on here, Also, you got to be able to be ready to face some unpleasantness about yourself, because we have a bunch of, to keep it together like this, we need to have a lot of lies and inner things we don't want to see and things I want to forget. And so needs to be some ability to some distress tolerance, to be interested in the truth about myself, and we are not going to do here like, see Gabriel, Archangel, and see the light and breathe the light in, and then crystals, and we are going to have the blue light. And so I'm not going to do these things here. Yeah. But if you do them on your own, it's okay. It's fine. It doesn't work to plaster some positivity on top of to put a smiley face on an empty tank. It's not going to go very far, So, yeah, there needs to be some courage, some spiritual courage to face some our stuff. But, if you come, it will be gradual, gradual, and it can be kind of, there's the connection and be more honest, what do you call that? Anesthesia. The good news is that the suffering is my teacher. My teacher was saying that basically the teacher or the guru or the teacher and suffering, they are like a team, like a good cop, bad cop. And then the teacher needs the suffering. The suffering is like, it kind of was a wake up call, or it's like, man, it's not working for me. I try to escape this over and over. This keeps happening. I have to stop and look at it. You know what I mean? So suffering is not a problem. And by doing this work, we are going to diminish a lot of our unnecessary suffering. There was this teaching that was saying that there are two types of suffering. There is unnecessary suffering, and then there is unavoidable real suffering. The unnecessary suffering is self-created, and it's like nothing. It's by making shit up, and by it doesn't have a real substance. However, the unnecessary self-created suffering is the most painful in some way, and the longest, takes the most time, this by taking things personally, making assumptions, by having, aligned with negative thoughts and feelings and all of this. The real suffering is, as Buddha said, it's part of coming here, having a body, so it's connected to impermanence, and everything comes and goes. Basically, everybody with love is going to die, including this body, and there's loss, sickness, old age, and death. And that's how it works here. And ultimately, it's what we are. Our consciousness is still untouched by that. And I guess we have to wait a little bit until body dies to verify that. So we can have much less unnecessary suffering and live life from the ultimate goal of this, man, is to find that kind of causeless sense of okayness and inner peace, inner harmony, and to live life from a sense of your authentic nature, your thing, because everybody has some gift, some skill, some enthusiasm, God-given, that if we don't find it, we don't do it, we are going to suffer, So to live consciously, free from unnecessary suffering, and authentic freedom. Also, I didn't talk about this because it's let's say it's more, one common element of all of these pain bodies or all the wounds or all this stuff, the common flavor is that we feel separate. We feel separate from, even from myself, separate from others, separate from the world, separate from God, feeling separate. You know, the ego, because it's not real and it's imaginary and full of pain, it feels separate. So as this diminishes, we are going to experience that actually separation is an imagined separation, and we start to have glimpses of that we are in a God soup here, and it is safe and it is fun, and it starts to be less like, oh my God, it's so heavy. It starts to be like a celebration. So my teacher was saying that the purpose of this work is to really deeply celebrate life. However, we can't do this as long as we have all those stuff. So there needs to be some waking up, cleaning up, growing up, and then celebrating, you know? Okay, I'm not usually going to go like this, but I wanted to put some context on our future work and to let you guys know what I'm doing. So